And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. I'm Corey, coming to you live from Iowa. I'm joined, as always, by Aaron Castro down in Arizona and Liam Madigan-Freed in Texas. Guys, how the heck are you?
Not too bad. Survived a second week of law school. I guess it's law school, but I'm not getting a Juris Doctor, getting a legal master's of some kind. So there's that. 2 weeks of law school down. Here we go. Season is upon us.
Yeah, so I had a pretty good week. Obviously I worked the Houston versus Glendale game, and there was a lot of preparation going up to that. But then on Sunday, my guys up in New England with Tom Brady, they advanced to the Super Bowl. So my weekend was flipping phenomenal. And now I'm getting ready for the week one up in Austin, Texas.
So you got to tell me why you have a hyphenated name.
Because my mother's last name is Madigan and my father's last name is Freed, and we're progressive Massachusetts liberals. So
seems about right.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked me that. I try to keep the whole poach persona going. Just a lot easier to say.
Yeah.
So what you're telling us is you're not swapping your SaberCats hat for a MAGA hat anytime soon?
Yeah, nah, I'm not doing that. For some reason, I don't think bisexual atheists from Massachusetts are very welcome in that demographic.
You never know, man. You could start a new trend.
Yeah.
Well, here in Iowa, it is about 0 degrees right now. That's a lot of negative degrees Celsius for our European listeners or Canadians.
And our Canuckistani.
So it is freaking cold as well, there's nothing appropriate I can use to describe that. So let me just say it's cold. Fortunately, I'm going to be flying out to Texas here at the end of the week. Woo! I'm going to be waving to Liam as I fly over and on my way down to the Gulf Coast. So looking forward to some 70-degree days in the sun. Can't beat that.
Dude, I totally thought Texas was going to be warmer than it was. It was like 41 degrees with like some mad cold wind at the game versus Glendale the other day. And like even my New England skin was like, this is not good.
It's still, you know that winter like still exists even on the equator.
Yeah, but the thing is,
it's still a thing.
The thing is that like there's freaking palm trees down here, dude. Like I packed like 2 pairs of jeans when I came down here for like the first month. And then when I went home from Christmas, I just had to get a bunch of like actual warm clothes because I only had shorts and t-shirts because I thought I was going to be like on the freaking beach in Galveston, like chilling, but nah.
Well, while we're comparing weather forecasts, let me just tell you a little bit about us. We are Earful of Dirt, like I said earlier. We do this every single Monday night, or at least as often as I'm healthy, I do it. We discuss news, rumors from Major League Rugby, the United States professional rugby setup. This is our chance to really talk over the issues, talk with fans, the coaching staff and players from the league, and really just dig in to the whole U.S. rugby scene. So that's what we do. And Aaron, I think you're going to tell us what we are doing specifically this week.
Oh, so there's a rumor to dispel. It hit the board last week, and I think it hit the Reddit board 2 weeks ago too. People were like, "What happened to the Toronto versus NOLA game? Is the shutdown affecting that?" Oh my, geez. Oh my. And so I was like, "Huh?" I checked the schedule. Yeah, it wasn't there. So last week, I talked with the guys in the league office. There was a glitch on one of the things when it came to the schedule that got fixed. And I think while it got fixed, it deleted the New Orleans versus Toronto fixture. But if you noticed, on all of New Orleans socials and on all of Toronto socials, they are promoting the match on the 26th this weekend. And I did confirm with NOLA GM Ryan Fitzgerald that, Thundercats are go, and this game is going to get done. So there, to dispel the rumor about government shutdowns affecting this game, it won't. For the rest of it, we're going to go over the last preseason game. I guess there was another. Utah played Utah Valley University. I think it was like 35-5 or something. And I guess it was the closest thing I saw to a full roster ever put together by someone that was in opposition on the pitch against Utah, because we still don't have a roster. Whoops. But Houston versus Glendale, we're going to do our season preview. We did the EOD Enterprise, which is us on the show and the boys over at On the Melee and our friend and advisor, Dan Brown, who we will somehow rope back into this thing. All voted, so we'll go over those, and then we'll look at across the season and look at the teams. Then we're going to go over the USA ARC roster, pick a first 15, and then match previews for week 1. You always got to pick the team and lay in line.
That's going to be a good show, guys. I mean, we're a few days out. We're here. We are ready to go. We are going to have rugby this weekend.
And we will officially beat PRO as the, right now we're tied with Pro with amount of professional seasons of rugby in America. So we're about to take that one step ahead. Maybe Doug Schrodinger might pull out something from his back pocket and tie it up again, but I don't think that's going to happen.
He announces tomorrow that Pro Season 2 starts on Friday. All right. Let's kick this thing off. So we had Houston falling to the Raptors 36-21. This is the second preseason match in a row that our SaberCats have dropped. The rumblings on the interwebs are that it could look like another disappointing season down there in Houston. Liam, what did you see pitch side this weekend?
Well, there's definitely validity to some of the rumblings online, and obviously I don't blame people. But just being there consistently at practice, I am seeing the small improvements that you definitely want to be seeing, especially since Coach Neil Kelly got here to Houston. The defense is definitely a little bit more consistent, especially at coming up in the post, especially as well inside of the 22. However, where a lot of the main issues lie is winning those one-on-one matchups in the open field, trying to make those tackles. Now, as we know, the Raptors back line, it's a pretty physical group as well. In the forward, you have guys who can carry the ball, particularly Hanko Hammerscheis, and he was a big problem for the Houston SaberCats. When you're not making these one-on-one tackles in the open field and you allow the Glendale Raptors to bust through your line like that, they're going to punish you all day, and that's what the SaberCats learned. Now, another big problem with the SaberCats right now is their lack of depth in the back line. There's definitely some interesting prospects coming out of the academy. You have Roderick Waters and you have Irving Carcamo. They're two guys who can bust through the line. They have very strong, muscular bodies. Then you also have Irving Cruz at scrum half. But considering the presence of Santiago Arata and Connor Murphy, the likelihood of him cracking a 23 this season or before next season at least is pretty low. But he could definitely be versatile, especially if you want to put him at fly half and move somebody like Kiernan or if Windsor's on the bench, move somebody like Kiernan back to fullback where he actually played this past weekend. So there's some mixing and matching that can be done, but the lack of depth is definitely concerning. Now, like I said, there's definitely still a lot of positives for this team, particularly since the arrival of Neil Kelly and with the defense. But they also still have playmakers on the outside who, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be helping this team. Joshua Vithi had a try against Glendale, and he was also really, really good finding the gaps. The dude moves his feet into contact, at the same speed as if he was in the open field, which makes him really, really hard to bring down. Osea Kalinisau, still got it. The dude's getting up there in age, but he's a huge leader on this team and honestly one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So I think he's going to have a really positive presence on the field for the SaberCats. Malachi Esdale is somebody who he had a great season last season. I think he's only getting better. He's making sure to get himself healthy ahead of the season, which has definitely benefited the team in the long run. They're being really careful with him. So definitely the SaberCats have a lot of issues, no doubt about it, but they definitely have a lot of potential. It's definitely not going to be another one-win season. Whether the postseason is a possibility, I'm still not sure, but definitely don't cut out the black and yellow this season. right off the bat, at least.
So, I mean, you've been down there for a little while now, right?
Yeah.
The preseason's been kind of tough for the SaberCats. I think this season's going to be a lot better compared to last season overall when you look at the aggregate, some of its parts. But they are missing some players, especially up front. One of their locks, Charlie Hewitt, is out for the season from an injury suffered early in the preseason in December, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other guys up front are out as well. But, well, I mean, spirits are high. Spirits are always high at the beginning of a season. But, you know, or do you think this is going to be more or less what you see from them throughout the season? Like, is 2-2 what we're going to see? Do you think – I don't know. We'll get to that more in the preview, but do you think they're going to struggle out the gate?
Well, obviously every team has its hiccups early in the season while you're still getting a system down. You're trying to build up that fluidity, you know, especially when it comes to the passing game. Obviously, the 2 wins that the Houston SaberCats got this preseason was against pretty weak competition. Or I don't want to say weak as in, you know, to discount the Austin Blacks or the Dallas Reds. They're 2 very good D1s men's clubs, but they're obviously not going to match up to MLR talent. And I think you also have to look when you're at the game. It wasn't exactly like the SaberCats were making mistake after mistake after mistake. It was just that the other teams that they were playing were executing at a level that you'd expect to see closer to midseason. Which was definitely really impressive. So I think the SaberCats are, I think there might be a small stumble out of the gate, especially as they're going to be getting over some of the smaller injuries. But I definitely don't see it being consistent. I think you're going to see a much improved SaberCats squad towards midseason and the end of the season. You know, potentially for a small chance at a playoff push, which would be great. But no, it's definitely not going to be the same as last season. And I think this preseason, you've seen a lot of the positives, but you've also seen a lot of the negatives that they're going to have to work through.
Well, and you never know what's going to happen once the season starts either. You know, we saw a change from preseason to regular season in the SaberCats last year. So we'll just see what happens. All right. You guys ready to dig into this season preview top 9 list?
Hell yeah, man. Let's do it.
Okay. So here's basically what we did. The 7 of us EOD folks got together and kind of we took a poll anonymously, although I'm pretty sure I know who most of the answers came from. We anonymously polled ourselves asking who we thought the teams were at the start of the season, 1 through 9. So here they are. I'm going to go ahead and run through them, and then we'll just kind of dig in and talk our way through it. So number 1, no surprise here, Seattle Seawolves, followed by Glendale Raptors, obviously the 2 teams in the championship last year. Then we go into Rooney, Rugby United New York, and the Toronto Arrows is number 3 and number 4. So it sounds like folks are really pinning a lot of hope on the unknowns. Number 5 is San Diego Legion, who did make the postseason last year and actually had a pretty good second half of the season. Austin Elite Rugby, AER, is coming in at 6th. Then we actually tied for 7th place. We had Houston SaberCats and NOLA Gold. So they each received the exact same number of votes. And then finally in last place, we have Utah Warriors. And I got to wonder if Utah's placement in last has as much to do with the fact that they're just not communicating as well as a lot of the other outfits, you know, haven't put out that roster as much as anything else. So I don't know, Aaron, you've got some thoughts right off the top here.
So yeah, looking at the EOD Enterprise poll, I'm actually a little bit surprised to see the Seawolves up top. You know, I guess some weak points for them is their head coach, Anton Molman, is currently still in South Africa. His visa has not come through. That was broken, I think, by the Tukwila Reporter last week. And then, so he's coaching kind of remotely, but Richie Walker, who he had accepted a position in New Zealand, but was offered an assistant coaching role with the Seattle Seawolves, is currently also serving as the on-ground interim head coach. It's going to be great to see what Richie can do at the 15s level in a professional setup. as an assistant and, currently as the head coach on the ground when we start the season. But when you look at the Seawolves roster, they didn't bring in a lot of guys that what I would consider necessarily upgrades. The the two positions that they did upgrade in a way were scrum half, John Phillip Smith, JP Smith, at scrum half to push Phil Mack. I think he's like 24 years old. If you look him up, he can play. He can play. He will push Phil Mack, and it's gonna be tough to see how they play opposite each other in practice and see who wins the role, really. And Ben Sema, they had fly half issues pretty much all season last year. Peter Smith struggled for fitness, and when Peter Smith wasn't in there, you had I think Shalom Suniula played fly half, and also Will Holder. And, Will Holder really, he's been forced to play fly half by a lot of people, and even at the international level. And his skill set right now really doesn't lend to him playing fly half, more or less a boulder inside center in my eyes.
Well, so I took a look at that ranking system, and it was more or less, along the lines that I voted. However, one of the things I just can't see two new teams being in the playoffs. And I know that there's been a ton of hype around Rooney and around Toronto, and they definitely have all the players to make that run. However, we saw with the Houston SaberCats last year that when you put a ton of big names onto a roster, it's not necessarily conducive to a playoff run. And especially being new teams, there's definitely going to be that period where they're going to have to build some chemistry. So I would rather see Toronto at this point in the playoffs rather than Rooney. Rooney's going to see some people lost to the ARC, and there's definitely going to be injuries at some point. So I would put my money on Toronto, possibly making a playoff run before Rugby United New York.
Well, here's the thing there. Rooney only loses 3 guys. Toronto loses like 6.
9.
Oof.
Not 9 according to America's Rugby News.
So 9. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I saw 6 or 7 names when the roster was originally named. Maybe some Rugby Canada at times is as bad as USAR used to be under the previous comms directorship. That when it came to showing call-ups, Rooney is kind of New York is kind of built for the beginning of the season when you think about it. I think overall composite, when you look at the roster, New York, I think I put them 5th. I forget based on where I put them. I don't think that they necessarily will be in the playoffs. They have a pretty good roster. They do. That is true. But
it's that chemistry factor that you really can't discount, though, especially being a new team that has brought in a lot of new players, especially within just the last month or so.
They have brought in a lot of new players. That is true. But the core of that team, people ask, why do you, depending on where you're discussing it, why do you think New York is going to be in the playoffs, or at least a top half of the table? Let's say 5 through 1 is top half, really, even though it's like the exact middle. And why do you think they're going to be there? Well, everyone knows that the core of that roster, like 20 to 25 guys, have competed with and against each other for years as part of Old Blue New York and the AC. So you have that guy, you have that talent that's there, and then a bunch of those guys, have been Eagles. You have old man Luke Hume, who's coming back, and somehow, I don't know how, really. He's going to be an Eagle fullback again. Good for him. He's in shape. He's always in shape anyways. But it's just interesting. I think they're going to have a lot of chemistry, especially, Tolkien has coached in the AC for years, and a bunch of those guys know him. And the Old Blue guys, as much as they probably hated him for years and years and years, they know him too. But I still don't think that they necessarily will be in the playoffs, but their roster is built for the ARC timeframe right now, especially with is it Cathal Marsh? Call. I don't know how to say it.
I'm looking at his. I'm not even going to try. One of the things I feel most bad about on this program sometimes is when we butcher people's names, because I've had a substitute teacher call me Lion Madigan Fried before, back when I was young, and that was my nickname for the rest of 8th grade.
I try to get the names right, especially especially the 15 syllable name last names we have sometimes, but Marsh at 10 he's going to be good. And then you got Ben Foden. I've been wondering when Ben Foden was going to be here, but he is here. And at fullback, so you've got a lot of weapons. But like you said, there is nothing that can, like, the difference between that team versus not the Ontario Blues, but now the Toronto Arrows. You have that same type of core, but instead of being on two different teams competing against each other, it's
all been one.
Yeah, you have this core of a team that's been together for years, and
that's where that chemistry factor comes in.
And then you sprinkle in a little bit of extras around that, and it's sort of like watching the Glendale Raptors from last season, and how you just sprinkled in a little bit around the core, and they were in the final. So I do think that the Toronto Arrows are going to be a playoff contender this season.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point to bring up, because one of the teams that I said could probably shock the MLR and make a playoff push is the NOLA Gold, mainly because they're returning a lot of players who did some great things last season. Along with, kind of like you said, they sprinkled in a few extras there. They're bringing back Cam Dolan, who's a great versatile player. They're bringing in Cam Dolan. Sorry, who's a great God, he got me all mixed up now. Who's a great player on both defense and offense. And then they're returning people like Holden Younger and Zach Stifler, who definitely impressed people and are coming back and are going to be in that system again under Coach Osborne. You got Hubert Bidens, who's still that veteran presence on the front line. And I believe is Eric Howard playing for NOLA?
Eric Howard, the vice captain, along the front row next to Hubert Bidens is back. And you like you said, you look at that core that they had last year, and then they're bringing guys back from injury. Vince Jobo, and then you sprinkle. So
Vince Jobo is going to be great.
Then we're sprinkling Kyle Bailey, and then you brought in Kane Thompson. So you brought in like some real good, healthy locks. Because last year you had Nikola Bursic, who plays lock at the international level, but he's 6'2", and he's more of a 6 than he is a 4. Let's just be real about it. But you brought in some big, healthy stud locks, and now John Sullivan is moving to the outside, either playing, depending on now they've got so many back rows. It's kind of funny when you think about it. But the key position for them, I think that was an upgrade, was Scott Gale, who's a 9-10 hybrid guy, but he's going to play fly half a lot for them. And Taylor Howden, God bless his soul, but he's the silver fox, And so he played at a very high level last year, and he's going to play at a high level again this year. But at times, both he and JP Eloff struggle for fitness at the 10 position. So I think you get that upgrade there, and then you push, and then you also bring in Nick Feeks. Mm-hmm. Nick Feeks, like that, lit up the world at Lindenwood. So you've got two really strong fly half contenders, and then if you want to play the second 5/8 concept, you put Howden, the field general, back on at 12, and JP Eloff just gets to chill at 15 and do what he does.
And as well, a really underrated aspect of JP Eloff's game, I shouldn't even say underrated, but we should definitely be mentioning it, is his leg. In the same way that Sam Windsor's leg kept the Houston SaberCats in a lot of games last season, JP Eloff could definitely be that difference maker, as long as Osborne's taking the opportunities to shoot for the post, especially in the first half when the opportunities are there. So as long as you have the accuracy with his leg, plus the dude is mad fast to the outside, he can definitely put tries of his own down and up on the board. So, yeah, really, really, really important player there on the backside. And he's a fellow fullback, so I like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, Nola, I'm kind of surprised a little bit. Nola's sort of near the bottom of this. I really like their roster. They're healthy. Last year, that last year they weren't healthy when they went into the season. They already lost Sebastian pretty early. They lost Vince Jobo and Sebastian pretty early, so you didn't really have the presence of those guys. So you don't know what they could have done. We've seen what Sebastian can do at Lindenwood. We've seen what Vince Jobo did with the Blacks. So you really know what they can do. But we didn't see what they could do with the Gold. If we get Jobo back, that's going to be awesome. San Diego is another team that got a whole lot. And I think
they
San
got
Diego,
rid of a lot of players too.
Yeah, they did. San Diego, like Austin in a way, but less so, I think. San Diego let a lot of guys move. Ben Sema moved to Seattle. Tag leader moved on to a player coach role with with the Free Jacks, who he will play fly half in the ARC, and we'll get to that. But he's also moving on to
as well.
Yeah, he's also moving on to a coaching role, and he's been a very active player coach throughout since he got to the United States with the Boston Irish Wolfhounds when he went there, and then when his eligibility was denied at Lindenwood when he tried to transfer there, he was a undergraduate assistant on the Lindenwood rugby squad, and then was served as the player coach for the Kansas City Kings or something. Not Kansas City Blues. Was it St. Louis Royals is the team, the D3 team that he player coached to a D3 championship. So that opportunity is going to be very good for the tag leader. What's interesting though, and this is where Gary Gold's about, you got to play. Well, he's going to play in the ARC. He was called in for November at the end, and so he's going to play. I'm sure he's going to be in camp the whole time. But the thing that's going to get him ready for the international window is these 4 games against Irish provincial A sides. So he's going to play some high-level rugby, and he's not just playing, club rugby, trying to get ready for the World Cup window. So good for him. Who else? Glendale. Let's talk about Glendale. Glendale.
I mean, the addition of Honko is big in itself, but like we've been saying, like their young talent that they're coming up right now with Mika and Harley on the outside. It's just I would say they've been sort of quiet. Now they did this, even though they've publicized everyone that they brought in. Their whole back row is basically new in respects that guys have moved on. Sam Fig moved on from the Raptors. John Quill, I think, was trying to get overseas, but couldn't get there and went to New York. But then, who did they bring in to replace those guys, really? Malone Aljabori, which was a Canton prospect, and I have no idea how he's not with the Sevens team right now because he was a residence athlete last year. I believe he's a Barbo, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Barbarian. He and his brothers have all come up through the Barbarian system.
Yeah, his brother Michael Aljabori was a pretty good player for a few weeks in pro for the Denver Stampede. So
and then
runs in the family.
His younger brother, it is said that the younger brother that I think he's still in high school, is even better, which is crazy. Like that. Those parents did something right. I'm telling you right now.
Speaking of which, have you seen video of Peyton Manning's nephew like playing quarterback at age 13? Like, not to get off track, but yeah, it's definitely in the same sort of league.
Well, it's his older brother's.
His older brother's son, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing. Like, so his older brother, I forget his older brother's name, but Casey Manning, or is it Carson Manning? Not sure. But
he was a wide receiver.
Cooper Manning.
There we go.
He was a high-level wide receiver, but he had some back issues. The dude was gonna.
He got diagnosed with spinal meltosis.
Yeah, the dude he had a degenerative spine where it just ended any prospects. Spinal stenosis.
There we go.
Ended any prospects of going to the NFL. But this guy was a stud. So, and then the kid has 2 uncles that are NFL quarterbacks. So, the genetics. I wish I was 6'3" and cannon for an arm. But, you know, Glendale's been – and then who was the last guy that they added that is a marquee name is Brendan Daly to the back. Wow. Then they brought in some locks. They brought in some other props because they lost Nick Wisniewski. Marco Fepalui, I think I said that right, who was with the Auckland provincial side in the Mitre 10 Cup, is now with the Glendale Raptors. So you have really you have an American stud, young stud prop in Kalepi Fafita, and then another young New Zealand guy with him just competing for minutes at the tight head position. And then Luke White, it looks like it's going to stop playing lock. Thank you. But then they brought in some pieces behind Sean Davies and Will McGee, so that's going to be pretty good. And, of course, you know, was it Campbell Johnstone to go behind Will McGee, and then Mickey Bateman is, of course, backing up Sean Davies, and did pretty well. I mean, when Jake Chrisman and not Campbell Johnstone and Mickey Bateman had to start during the June window, they won a game at San Diego. Things to think about, right? You know, talked a little bit about Toronto. We talked a bit about the Seawolves. Let's talk about AER, Austin Elite.
The Austin Elite, obviously, they're going to be feeling the loss of they're going to be feeling the loss of Honko in the scrum. You know, still one of the best players in the MLR, but a really underrated guy on that team I've noticed is Zinzan Ilan Puduk. People are mad excited about this dude heading into the season, and he's definitely a really good, you know, very vocal presence back there at 15. He's not the biggest guy on the field by any means, but at the same time, he can definitely move the ball, and he's very, very good about where he's placing his kicks. I watched him play just the other week at Houston, and I was really impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, so the thing is, what Austin decided to do, they brought in a lot of new players. They let some local guys go, and those guys have all returned to their club programs. With the Blacks and the Huns. The Huns laid the wood on the West Houston Lions this weekend.
Yeah, dude, I fucking know. We're trying to cut down on the swearing, but shit. Yeah, it was. I was getting text message updates about the game as it was going on, and I was really surprised, honestly. But at the same time, like I said, the West Houston Lions were devoid of Carcamo. They were devoid of Roderick Waters and of Irvin Cruz. Yeah, so it was just, there's great players on that roster, but when you have a lot of people absent who you rely on to be your playmakers, it's definitely going to take a hit.
Yeah, and then finally, the last team to look at is Utah. They brought in some guys that we know of, that we've figured out. From just pictures and stuff that the Utah has publicized. You know, Ian Luciano has come in. You had Jake Chrisman from Glendale has come in. And then this is a guy I don't understand how they let him go. Jerry the Missile. Jeremy Misalagalu from the Seawolves, man. That dude's filth. Like he will eat you in the middle. And then they brought in Hulu Hollow Mongoloa, a Eagle prop at Loosehead. So that's going to be an interesting competition between Alex Tucci and Hulu Hollow. Angus McClellan, of course, is back. Any other tight heads, though? I think they're I think they've got some guys, but they ain't telling us who they are. Like, guys, you can't keep secrets. This is professional rugby. You just got to publicize that stuff. You know, they're doing pretty well locally. They had, for that game against Life West, they had about 1,000 people inside the dome at the RSL Academy. They played UVU this weekend, sort of unpublicized warm-up for the weekend. And, you know, some guys are back. Some new guys are in. It will be – oh, and the interesting one was it looks like James Semple, who's their backs coach, is going to be a player coach. I don't know. Okay. You know,
I mean, we've seen it on other teams work, you know, especially with Sam Windsor down here in Houston. And I think he did pretty well last season, you know, just the leading scorer of Major League Rugby. But
Yeah, I think there was a guy up in Seattle that did a little of that too.
yeah, I think he did all
something
right.
or other.
Yeah. Phil Mack, I think was his name.
Yeah.
I think
brought the first ever championship to the city.
yeah, he won a ring by himself. It was kind of
Yeah,
no big deal.
I mean, talk about a perfect storm there. I guess rounding out the season preview, the thing I'm going to find interesting is just the whole remote coaching aspect right now with Seattle, or if, you know, decisions get made and things change. But if, you know, Anton Molman gets on the ground shortly, I think, you know, my criticism, or not really my criticism, I have a lot of criticism for everyone. Everyone knows that. I hate with equal equal abandon, as it were. But you know, it's just, you gotta get these people on the ground, and you gotta let them install their systems, and things will get done. But so that's how we think it's gonna roll. So Final Four, as the EOD Enterprise, we have Seattle at number 1, but guess what? You got to play these. You got to play these games. So Seattle, Glendale is probably where we're going to project for top seeds, and then Rugby United, New York, and Toronto as the teams that have to go on the road for the playoffs. You know, for Utah, guys, the team we picked last year won the championship.
That's true.
So, is what
you never know. You
never know.
The issue, I think, for all the teams is going to be depth, with this being a longer season. What do you think?
Absolutely, and that's where my concern with the SaberCats, as I mentioned, is going to come in with the back line. But yeah, it's not even going to just be injuries, though. It's just going to be exhaustion at some point, because it's a much longer season, and some of these guys, you know, who may have spent most of their careers at the D1 men's club level, it's going to be the first time they're going to be playing a season this long with at this level of competition. It's going to be a level of, you know, of exposure to physical, strenuous. God, I can't even talk tonight. To physical stress that they're just not going to be used to. So coaches are going to have to be sure to be able to recycle guys in and out to give the team the best chance to win, and not just playing people based on their names or based on their past accomplishments.
I guess, as always, which I always seem to wrap these things up by saying, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So you guys probably are listening to this, and most of you are thinking, okay, this is a bunch of bullshit. They're full of shit. They just don't know what they're doing. So I want to give you guys the chance to get in and make your voice heard as well. We have got a public poll that's going to be up through Wednesday. If you go to earfulofdirt.com, you can check that out. Vote for your top 9. And just let us know. We'll release that information, that public poll, on Friday, right before the start of the season. So that'll be a lot of fun to see what you guys think. I can tell you, as it sits right now, it does look like, at least towards the top of the list, it's looking awful familiar. So that's what I'll say. But that could all change. That could all change by Wednesday. So Earful of Dirt. Those are also up on our socials. You can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Earful of Dirt as well. All right, fellas, let's talk some ARC. What do you say?
Yeah, let's get into it.
We've got the 2019 America's Rugby Championship kicking off first week of February 2nd. So this is the U.S. national team has a 6-week competition every spring where we're playing against our Central and South American foes, mostly South American, I guess. So this year we are starting in South America. We're going to be in Chile on February 2nd, facing off against Chile. We're going to follow that up on February 9th versus Argentina 15. So that's Argentina's A side, not their full side. We have a bye week in week 3. Week 4 is February 23rd. We'll be facing Brazil in Austin, Texas. Then March 2nd and March 8th, we will be in Seattle. On the 2nd, we're facing Uruguay. And then we are playing against Canada in a Canadian home game in Seattle. I don't know if they're annexing Washington State. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But the home game for Canada is in Seattle versus us. So that's always the Can-Am games are always a lot of fun. So that's kind of the schedule. But USA Rugby did release their full squad this week, and I think that's kind of what we want to go into now. So what are you guys seeing as far as that announcement?
So I guess to review the schedule, everyone's wondering what's going on, or I guess I'm not going to spoil this. We do have a question at the back end. But week 3 is a bye week. How does that affect teams? Well, if guys are fit, they may get released, especially since we are returning to North America. So guys might be released to their MLR teams, but depending on their fitness, and by fitness I mean medical health and not their conditioning, they may get released to compete and practice with their team while the rest of the squad gets, sips some Mai Tais for a week and does rehab. Everyone, camp is gonna start really soon. It's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They're gonna fly down to Chile. I think Thursday of next week. Not sure exactly. Well, Thursday of next week ish, probably. Because one of the things you got to worry about is altitude. So you either needed to start camp in Chile, like this week, or show up the day before. So that's how you acclimate for altitude. But moving on, let's get into the roster. So I was asked a few weeks ago when the ARC roster wasn't out what it would look like. I said, one of the things Gary's been about is consistency with his selection. So the guys he's brought into camp, the guys he's capped. That's what you see with a lot of this. When I looked at how this roster was going to get released, well, international windows have a mandatory squad publication timeline, and we were obviously still ahead of that. It came out early last year, and it came out on time this year. So we were probably just finishing some negotiations with the MLR clubs, the overseas clubs, and the colleges, so that their players were on point. I didn't really see much of a change from November, and you really don't see much of a change from November when you look at this roster. But there are some interesting names from the college game, like Duncan Van Schalkwijk.
Yeah, no, definitely. However, one of the players that I'm most excited about to see returning to the Eagles roster is definitely Mikey Te'o. I've seen this guy play, and especially coming from the back end, I think everybody has seen him play at least once or twice if you follow USA Rugby, and his goose stepping is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. He can juke a player right out of their own ankles. Shout out to
Okay, so there's the goose stepping, but then there's what I call the Islander hop, which I wish he would just stop doing. It doesn't work at test levels.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, whenever you see it, you want to just get off the couch and do it with them. And that's But another person that I'm really excited to see come over is AJ McGinty and Paul Lasike, both coming over from the English Premiership. Paul Lasike played in MLR last season, played well enough that he was able to get a contract offer over in England, which is something that we do and don't want to see. We don't want to lose our good players because it's entertaining to have them here at MLR. But at the same time, when we're developing talent to the point that teams in England and other teams overseas want to poach our players, that means we're definitely doing something right. So I'm really excited about that. Ryan Matias from the San Diego Legion, obviously a playmaker and very experienced with, I think, with more than 15 caps at this point for Team USA. And so he's somebody who can still lead the back line and actually get some points in there. And then, of course, obviously I have to rep the SaberCats. Paul Mullen is going in there, one of the many front row Irish players that our coach Justin Fitzpatrick has brought here to H-Town. I think he's going to be a dominating presence up there. He's going to be a leader, definitely in that scrum. And then you have Sean Davies and Boyer at scrum half, who are definitely two of the best scrum halves in the country at the moment. They can distribute the ball in a manner that definitely gets our playmakers involved. Do I trust Davies a little bit more, especially with heavy playing time? Yeah, definitely. But I don't think we would be in trouble at all if Davies had to miss some time. I think Boyer is somebody who's definitely coming up in terms of names that people think
only talking about Nick Boyer. Because we don't have a 20-year-old prodigy in Ruben DeHaas on this squad. Come on now. But now, some of these other guys you're looking at.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to put together a list like you did. But however,
we're gonna go over that.
Yeah. However, we've already talked about Dylan Fawcett and Hanko Hammerscheis at length, on the show tonight, who are, they're two scrum players who are going to make a difference, not just with their ability in the scrum to provide that extra push, but their ability on offense and defense as just versatile players. And that's exactly what Gary Gold wants, is guys who can make a difference in both phases of the game. So yeah, I'm really liking this ARC squad, and I think it's going to be 2 in a row.
So
3 in a row.
So let's pick a first 15. I'm gonna, shout out my names, and if you think one needs to be replaced, you gotta say who you're gonna replace them with. So we're gonna just do 1 through 15. We're not gonna do the bench, because the bench gives you a ton of combinations. But we're also gonna make some mentions of some benchmarks that have to be met by certain players, just for something you'll understand. So Luke said prop, TD Lamosatelli.
I like it.
Hooker, Joe the Mighty Tafete.
Honestly, I'm almost tempted to go with Fawcett or Peter Malcolm in this point, just because I see Malcolm as somebody who's probably a little bit more of a threat with the ball in hand, but at the same time, I don't want to discount. I don't want to discount the others. All of these guys are playmakers.
So the interesting thing is about all the hookers but Joe, I haven't really seen the fifth one is Capelli Piffoletti, who was the last year. So this guy's young. Was the U18s for England captain, and somehow he ended up on the Legion. Don't really know how. Like the Saracens let him go. But whatever. So, okay, interesting. But stylistically, I don't know about Capelli, but stylistically, body type wise, Malcolm, Hilterbrand, and Fawcett they're pretty close together, to be honest. Joe is a bit different than they all are. Well, he's very different. He's a lot bigger. And that's the reason. But this is like the team of fully fit guys that we're going to have, because Joe's only available. I'm sure he's only available for like 2 games, and it's going to be these 2 in South America. So you've got some contentious picks. Who you would want to replace him? All right. Tight head prop, Paul Mullen.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay. Number 4 lock, Samu Manoa.
Yeah, I would go with it.
Yeah. Number 5 lock, Nick Chavetta.
I would go with Ben Landry at this point. Again,
so you'd go with 2 4s, 2 4-6s in the engine room?
All right. I mean, honestly, I'll just put it this way. I want Landry in my first 15 somewhere in the engine room. So whether he's at the 4 or 5 position.
So 5 is more of your line out, your really long guy, and that's Nick. He's 6'7". Samu is your sort of hybrid, like your 4 is your shorter lock, and Samu and Ben are the same size. So you would go with Ben Landry at 4.
Yeah, I think that's probably more accurate then.
All right. 6.
Grant Cole would be disappointed in me in my lack of scrum knowledge, I'm sure.
6, I'm going Quill.
I like it.
7, Hanko Hammerscheis.
Obviously.
Number 8, Cam Dolan.
Definitely. As I said, I was liking him on the NOLA roster.
Number 9, Sean Davies.
Yeah, no, I'll go with Sean Davies on this one.
It's funny because now we have options at scrum half. It's kind of wild.
We're definitely going to disagree on fly half at this point.
Fly half, Aj McGinty.
Yeah, no. So I wanted to go with tag leader. Obviously, there might be a teeny bit of Boston bias in there, but I also think that tag.
You want to go with someone who is uncapped to start this tour at altitude.
Well, mainly I just want to see you get angry, but
I know Tag. Tag's cool.
Yeah, and but mainly I would just like to see AJ McGinty. Here's the thing: I see us going far in this ARC. I think we are absolutely going to win it. I want AJ McGinty as healthy as possible for the final leg. So yeah, I would totally love to see tag leader go in there earlier, sooner rather than later.
So I don't think so. We get AJ for 2 games. We get Odds for 2 games, and I think we're gonna get TD, and we're gonna get Joe for 2 games, and we're gonna get Hooley for 2 games. We're probably gonna get Lasike for 2 games because of their club commitments, and this roster is actually pretty big when you look at it, and it's meant to test some new blood and have guys compete to get onto the World Cup warm-ups. But okay, and there's a lot. We have a lot of fly halves. Jeez.
Yeah.
But Aj, I think, is only released for the first 2 games from Sale, and then he is going to return to Sale. I think these 2 games are more or less rehab starts, sort of like the minors.
Mm-hmm.
For
sending somebody down to AAA or AA or something like that.
Yeah, that's what. So, tag leader's going to have his chance. He's going to have his chance. I'm just going with my best first 15 based on release window and negotiations with clubs. But yeah, I'm sure Tag is going to play in this ARC. I don't think he would have been called to up into the Ireland camp when we were there for any other reason other than that, hey, man, your number's called. Time to be ready. So moving on, left wing, Ryan Macias.
Yeah, definitely.
Inside center, Paul Lasike.
Mm-hmm.
Outside center, Brycey Campbell.
Bright. All right, yeah, Bright. Yeah, no, definitely. He was a
Bobby
great playmaker for the Raptors.
At right wing, Marcel Brocky.
I don't know too much about him, but yeah, no, I mean, like he's young though. He's like 25.
Marcel, I think is more like he's like 28. But I mean, we're talking a guy that's played a lot of Super Rugby in the backs. He's either played he's been all over the place. He can play in the centers. He's played in the centers for us. He's played left side wing, but I think with Blaine being out, I'm just going with guys that are big and physical and can get it done. So instead of, you can flip them too, Brocky on the left and Macias on the right. And then finally, at fullback, Will Hooley.
Wait, sorry. What was that? My mic kind of just went out.
Fullback at 15, Will Hooley.
Will Hooley. Yeah, no, definitely. I like Will Hooley. Obviously, Luke Hume might have that experience factor over him, but at the same time, yeah.
Will Hooley's been playing professionally for 5 freaking years, man. He doesn't need, come on. Oh.
But yeah,
but he wants to get me on my soapbox.
Go down to New York though and mention Luke Hume's name in any of the local rugby circles though. People I think will definitely agree with me.
So the thing I was going to mention is fitness, and fitness is an interesting term in rugby. It means medical fitness. It means conditioning. It's an all-encompassing term that I hate. I hate using the term fitness. So
well then don't use it. This is America.
So
if Seattle can boo the kicker, then we can freaking not use the word fitness.
So you have multiple things that you got to do when you show up to camp. You got to go through a physical, just show that everything's good. Aj McGinty has to go through a bunch of medical protocols because I think this is at the end of his rehab from the injury he suffered in the fall, which kept him out of the autumn window. And Gary mentioned this, that the Eagles strength coach is in Fort Lauderdale right now, early, for all the guys that are coming back from injuries. So they're in there going through a bunch of medical protocols and fitness and I guess conditioning protocols before camp starts so that they can be cleared to even start camp. So Aj, Will Hooley, he's a guy that he was on crutches 2 weeks ago. So I was kind of shocked to see him on this roster. So I'm guessing a guy like him is going through some of those protocols, and they just got to go through that. And then I think after the second game, which is Argentina 15, about 6 or 7 guys are going to be flying back to the UK. Aj McGinty, Tila Mustelli, Joe Tafete, Paul Lasike, and Will Hooley are probably all going to be gone. And then you're going to get either an influx of MLR talent is going to come into camp to replace them, or you're going to just see the circle tightening up as the squad gets smaller, because you really can, when it comes to this, you can only take 28 on the road. So, yes, they named 35 guys, but 7 of those guys will show up to camp to report, and then they'll go home. They'll be released back to clubs if they're MLR-based players. Or if they're the college players like Duncan Van Schalkwijk. He might get released and then recalled to camp later when we come back to North America, because that kind of, when you're at home, it kind of gives you a little bit more leeway in how many guys you bring into camp. Yeah, that's the first 15, at least how we see it. And, some of you guys tweet us if you think we are way off base.
Yeah. At Poacher Tundra, you can go ahead and give me as much hate as Aaron just gave me for my picks.
Moving on, this week's matches, round 1, week 1. I like week because I'm just not different. I don't know.
We're Americans. We don't say competition. It's a freaking league. We don't see rounds. It's a week. It's
a week. So week 1, what do we got?
So in terms of games, just encompassing, we have Toronto at NOLA, we have Houston at Austin, Glendale at Seattle, and Rooney at San Diego, or Rugby United New York at San Diego. I've heard some people saying they don't like the term Rooney online, but yeah. So for my prediction, I like that, like we said earlier in the program, NOLA returned a whole bunch of people to their roster, including Stifler, Howden, Younger, in the return of Vince Jobo. However, again, as we were saying, Toronto just has all these players who are set to make an impact and who have all this chemistry together, having played for the Blues up in Canada. So I think JP Eloff is going to be the top scorer in this one. I don't see NOLA scoring a whole lot of tries, but I think Toronto just kind of pounds it out, especially in the second half where fitness is going to take over, and I think they may have the edge there. I'm going to say Toronto minus 12.
Whoa. So I look at this. NOLA they're going to play well. I'm pretty darn sure. Toronto, I do give them the edge just for a variety of reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if NOLA wins this at home or even wins this comfortably, but it's really hard to know. I don't really have a lot of data on Toronto, but, they did beat the Raptors in a preseason match. Well, actually, a fall fixture. It wasn't really a preseason match. So, Toronto minus 3.
All right, Corey.
I'm going to say NOLA's going to take this one. I'm hoping for big things from NOLA this year. I just feel good about the gold, so I'm going to say NOLA by 7.
All right. And yeah. We don't have Dan on the freaking podcast anymore, do we? But all right, so on to obviously the Rumble down here in Texas. Houston is traveling up to Austin. as I said before, Houston is dealing with a bunch of health and injury issues. Especially at the depth of the back line is going to be tested. But I think that just having been around the team, they're really, really hungry for this one, especially having dropped their last 2 preseason games. And I've seen them be a lot more physical and a lot more focused in practice this week. I think Houston comes out strong in this one versus Austin. Whether or not they can keep that up consistently through the first couple of weeks is going to remain to be seen. But yeah, no, I think momentum carries this one in just a pure spite for having disappointed themselves in the preseason so far. So yeah, Houston by 3.
Home match for Austin. I think what they've been doing, they've been kind of quiet. That a lot of people are doubting. I kind of listen to a lot of people. I don't really know why people are doubting, and maybe it's partially because of that huge roster turnover that they had. But I'm gonna say Austin -5.
And I'll go ahead and say Austin by 14 on this one.
Woo! 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 Oh,
go big or go home, boys.
So moving on, the game of the week on CBS is Glendale versus Seattle. Liam had a chance to watch Glendale last week, and we saw them play 2 weeks ago against the San Diego Legion. And one of the things that you saw there was some discipline. And towards the end of last year, they were one of the most penalized teams in the league.
For sure.
I don't know how it's, sometimes the best team in the league is also like the most penalized team in the league. It's kind of funny, which it just hurts you when you're that good. But
just talk to Drew Brees, man.
But that Seawolves in their first home game, Seattle announced that it's pretty close to being sold out. They've sold out all the seats, so the only seat that you can have at Starfire is not a seat at all, but your own 2 feet. So the only tickets left are standing room only at Starfire Stadium for Week 1 versus Glendale Raptors. I'm going. I think the Raptors are going to want some revenge here from that final. However, I'm gonna go home win, but it's gonna be close. Seawolves -2.
Ooh, -2, cutting the cheese pretty close there. And for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, I think the Seawolves definitely going to slow down the likes of, Mika Kruse and Harley Davidson. Whether it can slow down Honko or not, that's going to be remain to be seen. But I'm going to say Seattle by 7 in this one. I think the champs are going to be carrying some momentum, and I think Philly cheesesteak Mac, he's going to be coming in with with something to prove here. Now that he's not totally responsible for all the coaching of the team anymore.
Yeah, but Aaron, you mentioned it. I think Glendale is hungry. I think they want to prove that the championship last year was a fluke. So I'm going to say they are going to travel up to Seattle and win by 3.
Oof.
And then for the final game this weekend is New York traveling to San Diego. New York, as we talked about early on, not only are they pretty stacked with Eagle and former American Eagle and like Eagle outside squad talent and a core that's been together for a while, but they've sprinkled in some names around them. But I think that San Diego has made the roster better. And if you look at who they brought in at the front row, because honestly, we can have this argument all day. I think they have the best stable of front row horses in the league right now. And, I don't know how they were able to get that done, but good for them. So I'm going home team here. And if it's going to be a late travel for New York, I don't know. I have no idea what the travel plans are, but I'm guessing they will travel on Saturday or late Friday night. Or wait, is this game on Saturday or are there 2 games on Sunday?
I'm pretty sure it's Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they'll leave. They'll get in the day before, enjoy some beach, and then hit the ground running in the afternoon on Sunday and fly home more than likely. But I'm still going. That's a long haul at the beginning of the season. You kind of have to get used to it, and I think that's why Glendale, flew for these 2 preseason matches just to get used to the travel, so that everyone's good for it because they're playing their first 3 games on the road. San Diego -5.
All right. Well, I think this is the one that I could most likely be wrong about, but I'm gonna go with Rooney -3. I think a lot of these big names that they brought in under the direction of Coach Tolkien, I think it's going to be. I think they're going to come out strong. And again, just like Houston, whether or not that's going to be consistent over the first few weeks, whether or not there's going to be that new team chemistry hiccups, that's going to remain to be seen. But at the same time, like I said, I think this is the one I could most likely be wrong about because I wouldn't be surprised to see San Diego actually even run away with this one. So,
well,
yeah.
I've said before that I think Rooney is going to be a contender this year. I really do. That having been said, first game out of the blocks and the fact that it's still possible their plane may get into an accident on the freeway on their way to San Diego. I'm going to say San Diego by 7 on this one.
Okay. All right. We've gotten, for the most part, I think we've only got one game where we're going double digits. So that's it. That's interesting. And that's really what you want to see. You want to see a raise in quality and competitiveness throughout the league. That was an important piece last year. Even though Houston finished 1-7,
they were in a lot of those games.
These games. So moving on to really transactions is kind of short because, well, there wasn't a lot of information out of Utah. So
yeah.
How is that roster they published? Oh,
yeah.
Come on, guys.
So there was a piece published. I think it was by Doug Coyle that Ian Luciano got signed by Utah. I'm friends with Ian from Boston. I've seen him play. He has both experience as scrum half
on the gram.
Sorry, what?
He's there. I saw it on the gram.
Yeah, but anyway, Ian has a lot of experience at both scrum half and fly half. He started out as a scrum half, but Coach Josh Smith decided that he would probably be better suited closer to the back line where he's actually making more plays as opposed to just passing out. I think the way Utah played last year is going to fit really well with his style. He's a really fast player who's really good at offloads as opposed to some other teams who are a little bit more methodical. So Ian Luciano, fly half to Utah. Shout out to Ian, dude. I think you're going to do really well.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're in extra innings here, so we might as well just delve right into questions if you guys are good with that.
Yep.
Okay. Questions from Bob is our regular segment every week. Where we take questions from you, the viewer/listener, over on the Reddit the Major League Rugby Reddit page, and that's reddit.com/r/MLRugby. So be sure to go there for all the MLR discussion each week. So here are some questions. First off, and I'm going to guess this username. I'm going with Bryn Cook LFC wants to know, how far will the MLR improve rugby in the US and Canada, and what can we expect in the coming years in terms of national team improvement and youngsters coming through in North America?
Well, getting more minutes for our players is going to be the biggest factor, and the more minutes you get, the more consistent you can get with with your game and how you develop your technique. So I think in the coming years we're going to see some much more sound fundamentals of rugby, which at times for anybody that's watched Team USA, it can be a really frustrating aspect when we just have these dumb mental lapses on stuff that should be fundamental. I think we're going to be seeing a lot less of these. Obviously, I think we're going to see a lot more younger players from Europe who fell through the cracks, who are still pretty good talents, but just not quite good enough to make some of the elite academies over across the pond. I think a lot more of them are going to come, especially as the salary cap starts to rise and they can make a little bit more money. Because honestly, if you're from like Cornwall, England, or something like that, why would you not want to go to a place like San Diego, Boston, or New Orleans? sounds freaking amazing to me. So yeah, I think fundamental rugby is where we're going to see the most immediate improvement in terms of the players who are getting a lot more minutes in MLR.
I look at this question twofold. If you're talking about world ranking, well, it's going to help Canada a lot because they have been pretty much in constant free fall, and we have been, at the end of Tolkien, we sort of like went, phew, and then we basically stayed about the same because we had some weird losses under Mitchell, but under Gary Gold, we've just been, and at this point, it's going to be for us with. I think the only opponent that we can get ranking points from this ARC is Canada, because Uruguay is a home match for us, and the way rankings work, the home team gets a handicap. So basically, if you win this match, you can get a lot of points if you're in Uruguay, but because we're basically artificially ranked higher than 12th because we're the home team, we actually can't get any points from Uruguay. But since it's a Canadian home game on the 8th of March, they get an artificial handicap. So the only team that we can take ranking points from this tournament is Canada. And we're probably going to take as many decimal points as we can from them. I'm very certain. But when it comes to just what Canada's going to get, it's going to raise their standard because they've been relying on a lot of amateur players over time. They have more overseas professionals, or used to have a lot more overseas professionals, just the way Commonwealth works and stuff. But I still think when it comes to youngsters coming through, we're still a few years away. But you're starting to see it with Glendale's academy. And all these academies starting to get off the ground. I think you're going to see it sooner with New Orleans and Houston with their academies, and then the sub academies from Austin. You're going to see those 4 teams pumping out some youth talent, because here's the thing: in those areas of the world, of this country, there is a lot of athletes, and a lot of those kids play rugby too. So we're going to see some interesting stuff coming through U18s and U20s pretty shortly. But as far as the national team is concerned, it's going to be tough for us to gain much more without getting tier 1 tests on a consistent basis to where we can steal points against the likes of, when we beat Scotland. We are going to break into the top 10 in the next few years because that's what MLR is getting. We're getting, we have good athletes on our national team. They just need professional time.
Fair enough. So good things to come, I think, is the answer to that. All right. Segment namesake, Bob B. Boberson wants to know, do WADA regulations / testing cover pot use?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is it depends. Regulation 15 is World Rugby's anti-doping protocol. The program is called Keep Rugby Clean. That is in line with the World Anti-Doping Agency's recommendations, because World Rugby is a member of the IOC, because sevens rugby is an Olympic sport. However, that also World Rugby has submitted itself unto Olympic protocols. So if you get caught for something and they don't have a separate protocol, you're going to get 4 years. However, does MLR have an anti-doping protocol outside of that, say the UFC does? The UFC has the biggest independent anti-doping protocol and program that is administered by WADA. We're a few years away probably from MLR from establishing that whole program. But the point of this is under Regulation 15, we go by what WADA says, and what WADA says is that you can have recreational usage of marijuana outside of competition. We're currently in the competition window now for Major League Rugby. So if World Rugby order to test specifically probably of national team players and national team pool players that have been identified and entered into the system. So you have a bunch of the APC, the American Pacific Challenge guys. So really, even in the MLR player pool, we're talking about 60 guys, 60 to 70 guys that are just Americans and not including the Canadians. So I guess you could say even up to 100 dudes in this that have been in and around those national teams. So, and then you add the Uruguayans, the Brazilians. Like, there's a lot of guys that are on the squads that would fall under this protocol if World Rugby said to WADA that we needed to test these guys. So that's important to know. So out of competition, marijuana usage, according to World Anti-Doping Agency and USADA, is okay. When he's out of competition, well, for the guys going to the World Cup, you're kind of screwed because you're going to go straight into camp after the final for the warm-up for World Cup warm-ups in the Pacific Nations Cup, and then you're going to have some games in August and September, and then you're going to go in September to the World Cup in Japan. So I'm sorry for you. But long answer. Yeah.
But the good news,
keep rugby clean.
The good news though is that EOD does not have a drug testing policy.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to call USADA tomorrow and find out how much that's going to cost to do 10% every month, just like we did in the Army.
I'll show you an itemized list of everything I'll fail for, man.
So here's
I've got a quick question, Aaron. Why have I been sending you my urine every month for the last year? I thought that's what
you can make a lot of money on the internet with weird shit, Corey. All right.
Yeah, I was paying him though, $50 a month to have the shit processed.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is drug testing is expensive. At the World Cup, they might even do so for the for the sevens guys. Yes, they get urine samples right now, but when they go to the Olympics, their in competition testing is blood samples. So blood samples, it's easier to detect some things.
Everything.
Like it's everything.
Except for hair. Hair is the only way to.
Hair is so. If
that's your whole life, man.
Hair has everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, Regulation 15 from World Rugby, keep rugby clean. It is what it is. For the recreational users, I'm sorry, but you decided to become a professional athlete. That's also apparently this goes down to club level because they're not the premiership, but the RFU released a bunch of statistics last year, and it showed that that compared to the premiership, the amount of people that popped in National 1 through National 3, and then further along the community, like in amateur rugby, not even National 1 through 3, that the doping, the not even steroids, just the drug usage in competition window was really high. So
I'm shocked.
Yeah, so even at the amateur level, when you become an Olympic sport, your NGB has to go with certain things. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. That was probably more than most of us ever wanted to know about this subject. So thank you. Drago3220 wants to know, will there be an MLR team in the Midwest anytime soon? If so, where?
Probably Chicago.
Chicago? I have no idea. I have no clue.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I've just given up.
The Chicago Griffins / Lions, they've been trying to work towards building a more professional program. We've seen on Facebook like a few posts, like the Griffins updated their website to be a little bit more fancy. But other than that, I can see Kansas City probably making a push for a team. Minneapolis is probably out of the running at this point. Although I don't even think you would I mean, I would consider Minneapolis to be the Midwest, but
is Dallas the Midwest? Because apparently there's a team in Dallas.
do we need a third Texas team, man? But I don't know. Like, I don't even know what the hell to consider Texas. They don't consider themselves this, like they don't consider themselves the South, but I've never heard anybody call this place the Midwest, though. I think it's just
it's like the Southwest or something. Yeah,
Texas, Gulf Coast. Texas. Gulf Coast is what they say.
From what we understand, no, it's not breaking news. Bill Webb has talked about it in interviews that Dallas is coming online for 2020, and then a bunch of stuff coming out of the Utah press conference that we thought there was going to be a roster release. Said that Dallas is coming online for 2020. So right now, it hasn't been officially confirmed by the league, but there's been a lot of comments from other ownership groups that Dallas is a thing. So we don't know yet, but maybe. But also other comments talked about another market in addition to that coming online. So we could see as many as 14 teams in the league next year, which would be kind of insane, but it puts you in so many more markets, which makes this thing commercially more viable when you think about the reach you get being in the Los Angeles market or the Dallas market, because I think Dallas is number 6. Chicago's in the top 10. People have asked, hey, about, or San Francisco. Is there going to be a team in San Francisco? Stuff like that. Part of this is
Ohio. Everybody's asking about Ohio. I feel like
you can have small market teams. You can, because there are small market teams already in the league. But there is an importance of getting specific large targeted markets, which they're doing, especially next season. With they did this year with Toronto in Canada, right? And then you have New York. Which gets you the number 1 media market in the country, so that your access to broadcasts and sponsors and everything. And then next year, you're bringing in the nation's capital, you're bringing in Boston, and you're bringing in Atlanta. So we're getting all the big markets. We might see after next year some small market teams come in again. Can we get Cedar Rapids, Iowa?
No. Well, the headhunters will front a pro side. It'll happen.
The
cornholers.
I have no idea. I really don't. As far as the Midwest is concerned, it would be nice. So, yeah.
We'll see. Gray Day 88. What team had the best off season, and what team had the worst off season?
So,
not to beat the dead horse, but Utah hasn't given us any damn information about their offseason.
I'm gonna say Utah had the worst. Who had the best?
Rooney.
New Orleans. New Orleans. I'm gonna say New Orleans.
Yeah,
because even though they lost some key pieces, I think they upgraded.
Definitely. Although, I mean, depending how San Diego goes, though. Whether or not like all those I don't want to say ejections, whether or not all the players they let go and all the players they brought in make an actual difference, that could definitely change, how we look back at this answer in a few months.
Yeah.
Truth. All right. Friend of the show, American RFC. Are we expecting the ARC call-ups to be released back to the clubs for opening weekend? Since ARC won't be started yet.
Guess what? This is the question I talked about at the beginning of the show. Camp hasn't started. Camp starts this weekend. So everyone who plays for MLR will play for their MLR teams this weekend. Guys who are not on MLR contracts will show up on Friday, Saturday, and then the MLR players will fly in on Saturday and Sunday. Well, Sunday and Monday. Short camp, couple days. Fly down to Chile for a couple days, because the reality is, like I said earlier, with altitude, you either show up 2 weeks before or you show up a day or two before, and then we'll continue camp down in Argentina and then come back north and set up shop in Austin, Texas. So yes, they're going to play this weekend because camp hasn't started.
Sweet.
There you go. Final question of the night comes from He Who Walks Slow. Could have been my username. Who would be your favorite kit producer for MLR?
X-Blaze has done a great job. So far, I have no complaints.
I have a complaint about the Glendale uniforms. I think that yellow jersey with the thin blue stripes is the ugliest crap I've ever seen.
Yeah, but is that on the kit producer, or is that on the team's input on the design?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Whoever drew it out and put it up on the wall, and whatever board meeting there was, is just as much to blame than the guys who were like, I like that. That's good. But you know how the colors don't match? I like that.
Then they also have a really awesome home kit too, like that.
Oh yeah,
the Raptor wing is really nice. But overall, I mean, there's been some sizing issues with, especially for the locks and how their jerseys fit. But I think overall, for what we had no expectations. We're doing pretty good. In rugby, there's no kit company that produces kits for the entire league, which makes MLR different. It makes it stand on its own. But I guess if rugby gets to a specific juncture, you want to see the big brands try to take away that, try to, people are talking about league sponsorship, right? So if an American brand specifically, I would say, comes after the league's kit production rights, Nike or Under Armour, depending on how you like their kits, it doesn't really matter to me, but you see what Nike and Under Armour do with football jerseys, right?
I mean
college football jerseys, like not the NFL stuff, because the NFL stuff's kind of bland. But unless you do the colors Thursday or whatever it is.
There's definitely like U Miami of Ohio has some dope uniforms. So whoever designed those should definitely give MLR a call.
So I think I'm overall on the aggregate, I'm pleased with that stuff. So
same hither.
Okay. Well, guys, we got a nice, solid 90-minute show in tonight. So this is the format we're going to be following for the regular season of MLR. We're going to be extending it out from our regular hour, probably doing it about an hour and a half each Monday. So we thank you for tuning in, and thank you for sticking with us this long. So any final thoughts on our ways out?
Hey, opening MLR weekend. Let's get after it.
Hell yeah, man. I agree. I'm mad excited about MLR is finally here. I remember last year when we were like, holy crap, I can't believe the season's starting. It's that same feeling again, and I love it. And go Patriots.
I'll go ahead and bring the laptop out to the beach with me and check out some games.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Here's the boring stuff I got to read off on our way home. So, on our way out tonight, please note that all opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the hosts and the guests and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or practices of Major League Rugby teams or the league. For full disclosure purposes, Aaron Castro is employed by Major League Rugby. Liam Madigan-Freed is employed by the West Houston Lions and Houston SaberCats. Be sure to tune in next week as we do this live again on YouTube each Monday night. We will also be up for download on Wednesdays from your favorite podcast provider. So be sure to get us there. You can check us out on all social medias. We're everywhere at Earful of Dirt. Just go ahead and look or listen, as the case may be. And please do give us a review and star rating on iTunes and YouTube and a like and all that good stuff, because that really helps us get discovered by new folks. Like we had a new listener tonight who tuned in and just wanted us to know that they didn't know what Earful of Dirt was, and I think that was about it. So Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next week. Until then, go out and watch some rugby.